Hello, young ladies. Hope that you are managing this tough time beautifully. Today, we are going to start with our Unit 15 Tours and Travels, Lesson 3, which is named as Imaginary Travel. Okay, let us start from our text and let's have a quick review from the introduction. Though I have read that in the classroom with you and I have finished the reading of the whole text, but as I could not finish my discussion about this topic in the classroom, today I decided to have a quick discussion and quick review from that text, and I hope that it would help you. Now let's look at the pictures here in the slide. There is the picture of the text of Gulliver's Travels, the cover page, which is written by Jonathan Swift. And this is the picture of the man who is Jonathan Swift, who is the writer of this beautiful satirical writing. And we are today going to read and analyze from one of his most famous writing, Gulliver's Travels, which is actually a satirical writing. And here the context is about actually factional realism or factionalism. So let's find out why the topic's name is imaginary travel. As because imaginary travel is a kind of narrative, let's look at the slide. The definition is at the bottom of that. Imaginary travel is a kind of narrative in which utopian or satirical representation or some popular science content is put into a fictional frame of travel account. And that also happens with Gulliver's Travels. And the writer here is using a beautiful literary genre which is known as satire. That means satire is a tool for making the impact of the literature more effective for the audience. Now, what is the reason of using this particular pattern? It would be helpful if you know the definition of satire. Again, let's look at the slide. Yes, this is satire definition. Satire means a literary device which blends humor with criticism for the purpose of instruction or the improvement of humanity. And in the introduction, we find that Jonathan Swift is actually writing for this purpose. He actually wanted to improve the human silliness, ridiculous attitude, bigotry, their extremism about religion, different racial discrimination. He actually wanted that improvement. And for that reason, he used that tool in his literature. Now let's go for the text. Okay, this is the text. Look at the text. Yes. And look at the picture of the first edition of Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels that we know now as the name. But at that time, the name was Travels into Several Remote Nations of the World in 4 parts by Lemuel Gulliver, first a surgeon and then a captain of several ships. That means it was written in a way that as if Lemuel Gulliver is the person who is telling the history or story by himself. Okay, and look at it once again. This is something very, very vintage and something which is actually the first edition of Gulliver's Travels. Let us look at these two pictures very carefully. In both the photos, we find that a huge human being is holding a tiny little one on his hand. The main text starts a bit earlier before that incident, but we come to read from this incident because our text is starting from here. And in our regular class lectures, I have told you other incidents from where the story started. So I think it's better to start from here. Look at the picture very closely. The huge one is our Gulliver, and the tiny one whom he is holding on his hand is the Principal Secretary of Private Affairs of Lilliputian country. His name is Russell, and Russell is here to visit Gulliver just after his freedom. And Gulliver is meeting this special person very comfortably, as because he had some good notion about that man, as because he helped him at the time of his own solicitation for getting liberty. When he visited Gulliver, there is a question in Gulliver's mind that why he is here, what he wants from him, or what he wants to do with him. So the question easily comes in our mind also. So let us find out why he was there. Actually, he visited Gulliver for some very confidential reason, something which is related to national interest. And he said in his conversation that at the present time they are passing through two very crucial issues, political issues in their country. One is internal strife, that means conflict in between their own people. And the second one, he said, is that enmity with another country, that means threat of invasion from neighboring country or from other country. Okay, in next slide we'll discuss about those two very crucial issues of their country. Look at this slide. Here we are going to talk about the discussion in between Russell and Gulliver, where Russell is telling Gulliver about their country's critical political condition. He mentioned about two issues. First, their internal strife, that means their internal conflict, the conflict among their own country's people. And the second one, the external threat, enmity with neighboring country and threat of invasion from them. And when he was discussing or telling about their internal conflict, he had given us some thoughtful insight about human nature. He said that in Lilliputian country, they do have two major political parties, Tramiscan, Slamiscan. Look at the slide. Tramiscan and Slamiscan. Tramiscans wear high-heeled shoes and Slamiscans wear low-heeled shoes. And the difference in between the length of the shoes of two groups are less than 1 drur. And drur is an imaginary measurement unit. It indicates 14th part of an inch. Now the fact is that just think about the difference, which is so silly. It actually shows the insignificant difference which they uphold with pride. If we look at ourselves, we would find that same thing is always happening around us. We love to make difference out of the blue, which are meaningless in religious field, political field, in scientific field, in our whole life, everywhere, in every sector. But when Gulliver looked at this problem in other race, it seems ridiculous to him because he is actually watching everything from a huge alienation. The size, the mentality, the country, their environment, their manner is totally different, and as if he is looking from the usual opposite side of a microscope, which makes it so distant and make it easy for him to look at the things from a perspective of alienation. Then we found about another group of people who are considered as problem when he or she is not surrendering to a particular group. Here in this text we have our crown prince as the as actually this kind of character because he wears two lens heel on two legs. It is an idea or conception of rule that if you belong to a group, you cannot see any good in others, and in that situation, you should never find faults with your own group. So this is the scenario of their internal strife, and they're having always chaos in between their Slamiscan and Tramiscan. The Slamiskan are unwilling to surrender with Tramiskan, and Tramiskan always think that they are upholding the constitution. Tramiskan group of people are actually in favor of the old constitution, and the Slamiskan do try to tell that they are liberal minded and they want to change the constitution for their own beneficial reason. And the conflict in the home is always so severe that there is no actually actually no friendly environment in the court, in the country, in outward places of the country because of their irresolving different kind of issues. Now let us go for the second one, external threat or enmity with neighboring country. External threat they're having, he said to Gulliver that their neighboring country, Blefuscu, is is actually giving them the threat to invade them, and they are actually tensed about that factor. And Blefuscu is the country which is more powerful, and they are more equipped than Lilliputian country. So the tension is really high at the moment in their country. And Brelt Russell is trying to mention this too very clearly to Gulliver that this is the situation, and for that reason, he is here to ask for some kind of help from Gulliver. Yes, this is the picture of an egg. Now let me mention the beginning of this Tramiskan-Slamiskan problem and how they divided among themselves. What was that life and death issue that actually made them to be like this? And why is Blefuscu now their enemy? Why they're thinking that their neighboring country is not their friend? What are the incidents and what is that crucial point that made that kind of scene? Okay. Red Russell told Gulliver that this internal conflict and conflict with Blefuscu began upon the following occasion. It is allowed on all hands that the primitive way of breaking eggs before they eat them was upon the larger end. But his present Majesty's grandfather, while he was a boy, going to eat an egg, and when he was eating that or breaking it according to the ancient practice, happened to cut one of his fingers, whereupon the emperor, his father, published a rule commanding all his subjects upon great penalties to break the smaller end of their eggs. The people so highly resented this law. Because of that, six rebellions raised, one emperor lost his life, yes, he lost his life, and another emperor actually lost his crown. In these rebellions, Blefuscu always supported the rebels and gave them shelter when they fled to their land. Now, just think what the difference it would make if someone is eating from larger end or smaller end of the egg. Is there any difference? But they are quarreling on that issue, and it is something so silly and ridiculous, and it causes humor and laughter that they are so silly, so tiny, their thinking is that much low that they do not understand even what is the reason of having that much chaos. And actually they are doing meaningless things in our eye. But what we are doing, if eating of the egg is the fact, same way, just think about the love for the country. Consider that our love for our country is an egg. It is not important then how we are taking that egg or how we are loving our country. It is important to love the country, to love the people of the country, to do welfare for the country, not to harm anyone of the country. That is important. The way of loving or the way of loving your country, your people, doing good things is never is an issue. It should never be. But that is the issue of the present world, present political situation in every country. We try to teach people how to love in which way by a particular group, by a particular political party. We are always actually they are actually always trying to make us believe that this is the perfect way of loving the country. But love for the country is the excuse me but the love for the country is the most important thing. So this actually this silliness of these Lilliputs actually make us that kind of uh, poke in our mind that look at this, you are thinking that this is silly, but you are nothing beautiful, or actually you are that much able to uphold your dignity as a human being. Though the story ended here with a principal secretary Russell's speech in our textbook, but the main book in Gulliver's Travels actually continues with many more interesting and amazing events. Actually, Gulliver's Travels is a four-part voice story, which has read a very small part from voice 1, Lilliputian Land's voice. I hope that you would try to read the whole text, and I guarantee you that the whole book will obviously entertain you, and at the same time, it will enlighten you. And the rest of the voices are, let us look at the slide. The first voice from where we read our text is a voice to Lilliput, and that is a voice to Brobdingnac. Number 3, a voice to Laputa. Number 4, a voice to the land of the Yumnams. The travels, actually the four-part travel story that we have in Gulliver Travels actually reveal truths about human nature. It shows that human beings are going through some basic crisis in every country, in every region, in every community. And the crises are racism, religious extremism, bigotry, factionalism, etc. And the part that we read from our text, that is actually focusing on the problem of factionalism. And because of factionalism, the Lilliputians are actually tearing apart from each other. Now the question may occur in your mind that what is factionalism? Factionalism means a situation in which a group forms within a larger group, especially one with slightly different ideas from the main group. If we look at the Lilliputian people, we would easily find this situation as because they are forming Damascan and Slamiscan in their own land, in their own people. Because of what? Because of very slight reason, very silly issues, and you don't know what are the issues, what are the difference, and the difference are so tiny, so silly, so meaningless, and so slight. But they are actually upholding that grudge just because of that silly difference. And factionalism is actually the main focus of this discussion here. Okay, and in other voices and in other parts of the story, we would gradually find fratricidal war, bigotry, extremism, racism, and many other such kind of issues. So, for better understanding of the text, I think you should go for the meaning of these words, or you should go for the short notes of these phrases like fratricidal war, bigotry, extremism among people, racism in religion in different sector, and factionalism especially. So I hope that you would try to find out the meaning of these things from dictionary, from online, that can be online, or from the dictionary that you have in your home. And but make sure that you are preparing that, you are making it complete. Okay, thank you. Now, this is time for homework. Try to draw a picture of Gulliver with Principal Secretary on his hand, and it would be your assignment's cover page. Okay. Number 2, write down the answers of the question of 378 from your textbook. And number 3, add few more phrases and words with number 8 question answer. They are fratricidal war, bigotry, extremism. Okay, that is your assignment. This was my first online class video, and with this class I am officially enclosing my lecture on English first paper, English for today. After finishing this one, we are going to start our class with English second paper, that means grammar. You have already had one class with Shubhendu sir, and in my class you are going to get lesson from preposition, that means especially for appropriate preposition, how to use preposition in sentences. So let's meet then, and thank you once again for being with me in this online class. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy.